For those of you that don't know, I have a podcast that is focused completely on Stadia. We record it right here on this channel live every single Sunday morning at 10 a.m. And some people might look at that and say, all right, well, this is somebody who has an axe to grind against Microsoft. That could not be further from the truth. As you can see, sitting next to me, I have my Xbox Series X. Downstairs in the living room, I have a PS5. Sitting right behind my Xbox here is a Nintendo Switch. I also play on Luna. I've played on Stadia. I've played on GeForce Now. I play games. I don't play platforms. I play games. I've been accused by many of being a shill for one company or another, and in the same comment threads being accused of being a hater of those same companies. So why am I telling you this? Well, I'm telling you this because I feel like it illustrates the point that I'm about to make, that I don't feel like I'm biased. I feel like I have always shared my actual opinion, and I don't let it really get colored in any way because I see an advantage or a disadvantage one way or another. I want to talk about the comparison between Stadia and Xbox Cloud Gaming. I despise that name, by the way. I want to talk about the comparison. There's going to be a lot of people making that comparison because Microsoft finally has let everybody use a PWA app, and we can all try out Xbox Cloud Gaming on our phones, on our tablets, and even on our computers. And that is a fantastic thing. I'm always for more competition because more competition makes companies work harder to make things better. So let me talk about what my experience is using these two things. And I'm going to use Destiny 2 as an example because it was a game that I have on access to on both platforms. All right, let's start off and see how the game runs on Stadia. Just to make sure that everything is exactly the same, I'm recording this on my M1 Mac. I'm using the latest version of Google Chrome, and I'm using an Xbox controller, even though I have access to a Stadia controller. I just want to make sure that everything is exactly the same, so I'm not introducing any other variables when trying to play Destiny 2 on both platforms to see how it runs. Okay, so I'm down here in the EDZ, which is like one of the very first places that you go. I'm playing Destiny 2 on Google Stadia using an Xbox controller on my Mac. As a Mac user, this is like the dream. To be able to play these games on your Mac without having to worry about storage or without having to worry about the fact that, a lot of games don't get made for the Mac system. So this is really fantastic as a Mac user, and I'm not really noticing any latency. I'll edit in a latency test here in a little bit, and we'll see. Like I'll do like 120 frames per second or whatever, and you'll be able to see what it looks like. But overall, this feels great. And I have to be honest, I haven't played Stadia without a Stadia controller in an exceedingly long time. Now I'm going to do the same stuff using my Xbox controller on my M1 Mac using the latest version of Chrome, except now we are using Xbox Cloud Gaming. They changed the name, so I always struggle with that. Let me go to full screen and press A to play. So we'll get logged in. We'll go exactly back to the EDZ. I'll shoot a couple of dudes. I'll do a latency test, and then we'll edit everything together, do a side-by-side, and we'll talk about my thoughts about what this is like playing the Xbox Cloud Gaming beta versus playing on Google Stadia. Okay, my character's in the same place that I was before. Let's go around, shoot a couple of dudes, and then I'll do a latency test. I definitely see this looks grainier. The resolution is definitely lower. But that's not a surprise. It's not like Microsoft was saying that they were going to be running at 4K. If I were playing on a 1080p screen instead of a 4K screen, I wouldn't care. Like this would not bother me at all. It would look just fine. The latency, however, is absolutely an issue. I am struggling to get things on target. Definitely a struggle. This is not as easy. This is harder to control than on Stadia. Absolutely. All right, let's go into the church here and do a latency test the same way that we did before. All right, I was standing. Well, so you see how I meant to turn and stop at that door, but I'm having trouble. Like if I turn and I go to stop, I'm going to try and turn 90 degrees and stop at the door. See, I'm really struggling to stop. Stadia definitely looks better and plays better than Xbox Cloud Gaming. 100%. Like there is absolutely zero doubt in my mind. It plays so much better. I spent a good part of yesterday doing a live stream of Borderlands 3 on Google Stadia. This is a first-person shooter. First person? Yeah, first-person shooter. And then last night, our Discord community was talking a bunch about the Division 2, so I loaded that up and I was playing a bunch of the Division 2 last night. That's a third-person shooter, again, on Google Stadia. And when I logged into Destiny 2 on Xbox Cloud Gaming this morning, the immediate feeling that I got was, holy cow, this feels like I'm trying to move the joysticks through some kind of syrup. It's incredibly sluggish. It's incredibly slow. And I'm talking about on the same exact system. Like I'm using, I was playing on my M1 Mac that's sitting in front of me, using the latest version of Google Chrome. I even tried using Stadia, using this controller instead of this controller, because I wanted to make sure that I was making an accurate comparison. So I was using a Bluetooth controller on Stadia, a Bluetooth controller on Xbox Cloud Gaming, and it was night and day. Stadia is objectively better when you are talking about the quality of the video that you're receiving from the console that's being sent to you, and when you are talking about the latency. Now, I feel like there's going to be other people who have other opinions. And it's not because they're liars, and it's not because they're biased. This is showing us one of the big downfalls of cloud gaming. And for somebody like me, cloud gaming works fantastically, but not everybody is going to have the same exact experience. If I go to a store and pick up an Xbox Series X and bring it home and plug it in and put a disc in and play a game, and you are in, I don't know, Minnesota, and you go to a store and you buy an Xbox Series X and that same game, and you put the disc in and you play the game, you and I will have essentially the same experience. When you're talking about people who don't have the hardware in their house, there's a lot of factors that impact how that experience is going to roll out for different people. For instance, I have fantastic internet where I live. I don't know how that's possible because I live in the middle of nowhere, but I have very fast internet. I have 20 down, no, 300 down, 20 up. Wow, I almost messed that up. While 10 miles down the road, my father is on dial-up. So you're going to have very different experiences with cloud gaming depending on your personal situation. And even if you have good internet, you might be a couple of hops away from this cloud server and only one hop away from this cloud server. And so you're going to have different expectations. Now, as broadband, and I'm talking real broadband, not like the nonsense that ISPs pretend is broadband, but like real high-speed internet, as that ekes its way into more and more places, this difference is going to diminish, and that's a good thing. But right now, I feel like I have to say that just because somebody has a different experience from you doesn't mean that they're a shill, doesn't mean that they're a liar. It just means that maybe they had a different experience, and you should just chalk it up to that. For me, Stadia plays fantastically well. It feels like I am playing on a device in my house, and Xbox Cloud Gaming does not. It feels slow, it feels sluggish, and honestly, it's really, really disappointing. I don't normally do this kind of thing because I don't really know what I'm doing. You should go to Digital Foundry for this kind of thing. I don't really know what I'm doing. B, I'm not super good at it. And C, I don't really care. But I decided to do a latency test. Now, I did not count the frames or anything. All I did was I set up my phone, pointed it at my screen, and I jumped in the game. I jumped in the game using a Bluetooth controller on Google Stadia, a Stadia controller on Google Stadia, and a Bluetooth controller on Xbox Cloud Gaming. And the results were, through my I don't know what I'm doing kind of experiment, was that this was the best experience. The Bluetooth controller on Stadia was the second best experience, and then the absolute worst experience, and this is anecdotally exactly what I felt when I picked up the controller and was playing, the worst experience was Xbox Cloud Gaming. Now, you might hear me say all of this stuff and think, all right, well, I need to ignore Xbox Cloud Gaming and never try it. And I would say, no, that is not, you must have just skipped over the last 2 minutes where I said your mileage may vary. You might also hear this video and think that Bill is done with Xbox Cloud Gaming. And that is not the case either. And the reason why is because I think over time, Xbox Cloud Gaming's quality and latency are going to catch up to Google Stadia. Now, I will say this, Microsoft, if you are serious about what you're doing here, you need to make a cloud controller. Nothing is as good as a cloud controller when you're talking about cloud gaming. We need Microsoft to put out an Xbox cloud controller that connects directly to their servers, and that would solve the latency issue 100%. All right? So that's my recommendation to Microsoft. Now, let's talk about the resolution. Now, Microsoft's resolution was 1080p. Stadia's is 4K. I know that there's people that are going to say, well, actually, Destiny 2 is actually upscaled, blah, blah. I don't care about that. I'm just saying, when I looked at it, the resolution of Stadia's was significantly higher than that of Microsoft's. Even if I was streaming it from an Xbox Series X, Microsoft was only sending me a 1080p stream. Now, on a 1080p screen, that doesn't really matter. That's fine. That's perfect. That's great. On a 4K screen, it kind of looks stretched out and blocky, and that's not great. It's not a great experience. So, depending on your screen that you're going to be playing on, I would recommend one over the other. I would say, well, if you're going to be playing on a 4K screen, you definitely want to go with Stadia because the games are going to look better than they would if you're playing on Xbox Cloud Gaming. Now, the big difference, quality aside, the big difference between Stadia and Xbox Cloud Gaming is their business model. Xbox Cloud Gaming is just a tertiary add-on that doesn't cost you anything extra if you're somebody who subscribes to Game Pass. And it's really there, in my opinion, and notice I said opinion, it's really there as a way for people to check out their games when they're not at their Xbox. Like, that's really what it's for. Whereas Stadia is a store. And say what you want about what everybody complained about back in the day when Google first said, hey, we're going to do a thing with video games. And everybody in the world said, it's going to be the Netflix of gaming. And then when it wasn't the Netflix of gaming, when it wasn't a subscription that gave you access to every game ever made, everybody got mad at Google for not doing the one thing that they said that they that they never said that they were going to do. They never said it was the Netflix of gaming. And so right from the get-go, Google was in a PR nightmare because people cannot be bothered to manage their own expectations, or they can't be okay with being wrong about something. Google is a store. Google is a store. Stadia is a store. And if I want to buy Doom Eternal and sit down and play Doom Eternal on Stadia, I can just throw that $60 down, play in 1080p with much better latency, by the way, and I'll be fine. If you want to buy a game and play it, I think that Stadia is the option that you should go with. If you want to subscribe to a la carte thing where you're like, all right, well, this month I get to play these games and maybe next month I'll get to play something else, then I think Xbox Cloud Gaming is the way to go if you want those 100 games right now. However, as somebody who thinks that the Xbox Game Pass is a ridiculously good deal, I don't think that Stadia Pro is nearly as bad as what many people make it out to be. And here's why. I have been subscribed to Stadia Pro since the beginning. And I have, I think at this point, 83 games that are in my library. That's not true because I forgot today is Tuesday. And on Tuesday, before the first of the month, we find out the new Stadia Pro game. So take that number 83 and increase it by 4 because we got 4 more Stadia Pro games this month. That would be Moonlighter, Terraria, Street Power Football, and Darkside Detective. So that's now up to 87 games. All right, back to it. That are never going to leave my library as long as I remain subscribed to Stadia Pro. That's a really good deal. If I subscribe to Xbox Xbox Game Pass, today, I get access to 100 games. But next month, some of those games will disappear from my library and I won't be able to play them anymore. So you also have to make that decision. What's the better deal for you? For me, the better deal is both. I think Stadia Pro is a fantastic deal. I really like the way that Stadia plays on all of my devices, but I still have an Xbox Series X and I still subscribe to Game Pass because it gives me access to other games. Now, obviously, you can't subscribe to everything. You get subscription fatigue. I understand that. But I saw a post on Reddit this morning. It was on the Stadia subreddit, and somebody said, it's the Cloud Wars or whatever. And all I wanted to say is, why do you have to constantly be tribal with this? Can't we all just play on the systems that we like and enjoy what we like and let other people enjoy what they like? Why does it always have to come down to this is better than that? Now, that might be a little hypocritical after I just got done saying, I think this is better than that. But I'm also saying at the very beginning, I said, I'm not biased and your mileage may vary. So the long and short of it is, after this exceedingly long talk that I did not anticipate talking about for this long, try them out, see what you think, and let me know in the comment section down below which one you think is better. I'll see you next time. Stay rad, everybody.